This is all psychology. If they would have come out in the late 80s, 90s when they started this and said, we're going to terraform the planet and change the atmosphere, we're government, we're God, people would have sued environmentalists. What are you doing? If they use weather weapons as weapons against our farmers or other countries as economic control, people would know to blame them. So that's why the government says there's no weather modification. None of this exists. As hundreds of universities, thousands worldwide work on it, and fleets of aircraft are spraying. And so now, after decades of us fighting it and saying, what's going on? You know, we're talking 14, 15 years that I've known of people speaking about this. It has that kook connotation, so even when the government announces it, people go, oh, no. Couldn't be happening. Just like their document said 20 years ago, world government, global carbon tax, they said we were kooks, didn't exist. Now when they announce it, as they've done the last month, people go, oh, well, it still doesn't exist. And newspapers attack me saying it doesn't exist. So that's the amazing psychology. And talking about amazing, Rosalind Peterson is probably the top overall, person who is studying all the basic data and really integrating it in together. Rosalind, please continue with, well, the psychology of them denying all this and then the meetings you've gone to. Go ahead.
This meeting at Stanford University in November 2006, they had a public section, and the public section of this meeting had different scientists, geoengineers, talking about their various programs that they wanted to implement. And what was fascinating about this group is they admitted right there that they had kind of hidden the word geoengineering for the public for a long time because they realized that if it came out, the public would object. So there was kind of this cloistered group that decided that they were going to work on this, have the funding for this, and then try to get it all set to go so that at some point they could implement putting these chemicals and particulates into the atmosphere to do these atmospheric experiments. Stop.
You go to this conference, and there's copies of the minutes and things on the web, and I've seen them. We need to dig them out and get them posted, and you've linked to them on your site. Think of the magnitude. You've got all these top climate scientists there, and it's all, and by the way, these were the mid-levels being co-opted. Oh, we just came up with a plan to secretly terraform, but you can't let the public know they're not ready, even though this is a semi-public meeting. That's how the co-opt works when it had already been going on, for over a decade before this. That is what is so key about this, and this mindset of we can't let them know because they're too small-minded. Specifically, that is so important. Go back over that.
Okay, well, what they did is they said the public would object because, in other words, they can't control the end result of their experiments. They know that they would be putting harmful chemicals in the air. They know that, like sulfur, for example, or, in other words, salt particles, there's all kinds of things that they've got planned that they could use in the air that would be toxic to us or to plants or crops, whatever, water supplies. So what happened is they decided that they were going to be the stewards of the environment, and it was going to be them that was going to save the world, and that we were essentially the unwashed. As Professor Benford mentioned, it was kind of like we were the people were the unwashed masses who didn't understand that they were going to take care of us. So it was kind of an odd, I have some quotes from him which are quite interesting, but it was an odd meeting. So they had question and answer, so when I got up and I spoke and I said, well, what about agriculture? If you cover us over and you stop direct sunlight from reaching the earth, there won't be any photosynthesis happening. And that's, in other words, photosynthesis, direct sunlight hitting the earth, is what allows plants to grow and food crops to produce. And if you remove the direct sunlight, whether it's from man-made clouds or any of these experiments, you're going to have lowered crop production because photosynthesis, the plants get their strength and energy to grow from that process. So when I raised this issue about, well, was anybody talking about, in other words, the pollutants and what effect they were going to have on the trees? Was anyone talking about our food supply? And if you put up all these chemicals that are toxic to plant life, you reduce the amount of sunlight hitting the earth, what's going to happen to agriculture, in other words, this area? And I said, and did anyone speak on this subject? And they said, well, there were actually only two people in the whole conference that spoke on something to do with, in other words, plant life, but that was it. but they said the majority of the speakers were all there into doing this atmospheric geoengineering and various forms of it. So they didn't really invite the public. Ken Caldeira invited a radio talk show host from New York. He invited the BBC and Al Jazeera to this meeting. So when they met at Stanford, they didn't even invite the major press to come to this meeting at all.
All right, stay there. I want to know if there's any recordings of this. We'll be right back. I want to go through some of those quotes, too. Riveting. Rosalind Peterson, she really is the preeminent chemtrail expert because she has just gone to the conferences, done the research, and she covers what is admitted, what is documented, what is on record, and it is hellish. Now, I understand their operation. Everything is eugenics, like in-game documents. That's their system. And so the meeting she was at was a co-opting of, we keep this secret and the lowdown for your own good. We're going to save the Earth for the global warming, which we may actually need, kind of going towards an ice age now, the sunspot show. But side issue, the point is they don't want the public knowing about this, and it is just so incredible to understand that it's really public what they're doing. And so saying it's to stop global warming is the cover, because this is bad for plants, bad for humans, bad for the Earth. The sun is the main source of life on this planet. And you've got some of the quotes of these people, and their meetings are sourced and quoted. In fact, I have the meeting you're talking about. The Council on Foreign Relations mentions it. So can you speak more about the meeting and then more about, I know you're going off what you know they're doing, but clearly they're spraying now, and how many different programs there are from your research or the other experts and what it is they're putting out. Go ahead.
Well, there's a number of programs that I think are all interrelated. We have communication systems programs for the military. We have weapon systems that they're going to need to be able to use, in other words, the atmosphere above us, either obscure the skies or to be able to use certain types of lasers. And so they're going to put up certain chemicals to do this, and the documents are there. And it's putting it forward to the public, but more and more we're beginning to unravel all these different types of atmospheric military programs that are going on. And weather modification is just one of them that they want to promote along with the cap-and-trade legislation. It was interesting because they put weather mitigation right into the cap-and-trade bill, Senator Barbara Boxer's cap-and-trade bill last year, and I'm afraid the cap-and-trade bill will have weather mitigation and modification in it, in other words, to help with climate change.
No, Obama's now said that, so now we'll pay Al Gore and Obama's private companies. Gore and Blood is the one in England with Mr. Blood and Mr. Gore, and literally, that's not a pun, folks, and then the one up in Chicago, the mercantile that Obama's bought in on. Yeah, no, that's what they're saying. We're going to now publicly pay tax money to Al Gore to chemtrail us. You got to love that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how this all works out. I can tell you that there is an audio tape of the meeting, and I can get you a copy of the audio tape of that meeting because they allowed an audio tape to be made of the meeting. No film, but one audio tape. And so I can get you a tape of the meeting, and you can listen to these guys talk. And
unbelievable. This isn't out on the web yet? I mean, is it okay if I get it? Because I don't want to wait making my chemtrail film. I don't do that. I would immediately just put it on YouTube.
Yes. It's on...
I have children like everybody else. I don't want them breathing chemtrails anymore. I just want to get it out.
Okay, the tape is on NewYorkSkywatch.com, I think.